All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. We'll get into cover crops and how they help us actually get more water in the soil and how they don't compete against our cash crops for water and how they can compete against our cash crops for water. But first, my little trip to Iowa. I am back. Got to visit Dustin Adams' farm and look up Dustin Adams on YouTube. Go give a subscribe. Encourage him to post more videos. Not the greatest YouTuber. He could be doing a lot more videos, but he's an impeccable human being. So before I headed down that way, the wife and I went up to the local bar restaurant, and we had a beer and a burger. And the whole time we're sitting there eating, the wife is looking around me at this guy, and I keep looking back. He a little drunk. He ain't harming anybody. Just a happy guy loving life. Party on, Wayne. Good for you. And after a few times of her looking around me, and I said, well, what's the deal? You got a crush on him, or you know the dude, or what? And she's like, I think I do. I think I do know him. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I think that was an ex-boyfriend from way back when. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. Rumor was that after they broke up, he climbed in a bottle and never climbed out. And I looked at him and saw how happy and loving life he was. And I looked at her and I accidentally said, man, who would have thought after all these years he could still be celebrating? Better not make this video public. So after dinner, hopped in the black Cadillac, headed down to Iowa, dropped into Stacyville, stopped at Dustin's, and got to hang out with his family for a few hours. And what a wonder! He's got two boys, and they are just funny. Carson, I don't know, Dustin. I think Tina's got some past that you don't know, because his one boy Dustin, or his one boy Carson, wanted to learn how to play pool. Mom goes over there, grabs that pool cue, just starts sinking balls. I'm like, I don't know. I think they called her Gator back in college. There's some history for a gal to be able to clear a table like that. There's some history. There's some stories we need to start hearing. And that was good. And his boy Jax, he's funny. That's for you, Jax. We're eating pizza, very good pizza there in Stacyville. Fantastic pizza. You're eating your pizza, and you look over, and here's this 4 or 5-year-old brute of a little boy, just crawling across the table, giving you the stink eye. Well, what did I do? Leave me alone. Wonderful boys, wonderful family. Dustin gave me a tour of the farm. And on this editing, I can't put in pictures, but I'll get him in on one video. But gave me a tour of the farm that him and his brother are working to keep Grandpa's land going. And the cows, good-looking herd, a nice little farmyard there. And they're working hard. So then I dropped down to Calmer, as I pronounce it, Calmer. They might, with their accent down there, they might call it Calmer, Iowa. Oh, Oregon. That's what I'm saying. Calmer. At the college there in Alicia with the NRCS, put on a heck of a show. Hardworking young gal, fantastic lineup of speakers, and they had a guy named Doug. He had an hour and a half. And did a great presentation that really made you kind of question what we're doing in our modern ag system. And then Dave, one of their locals down there, a strip tiller cover cropper guy, he had a fun presentation, and his was pretty cool because at the end of his presentation, we had a whole lot of conversations going on in the classroom. I think we solved most of the world's problems. That's a good presentation. When you start sparking conversation like that, and that's why I like them breakout sessions. You start sparking conversation like that, that's what it's all about. That's the whole point of it. And this guy up here is like, well, I read the book If Weeds Could Talk, and I think da-da-da. And then this guy over here is like, yeah, I read that book too, and you got to look at this and this and this. And this guy's like, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, yeah. And then we went down the hall. Amos, a young family man from northern Iowa, TA Cattle Company and Cover Crop Seed Company. Fantastic young family man. And he had a great presentation about what they're doing on their farm. Thought I had a yawn coming there. Late in the evening, it's time to go home. But he had a great presentation, and same thing. At the end, they had to almost drag you people out. You know, come on, people, let's go. Get out of here now. Move along, y'all. And because the conversations just kept going. Well, you're doing this. Well, I'm doing that. Well, how's it working? Oh, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, fantastic presentation. It's kind of fun to come into a hall, and especially at the colleges, because the young ladies are all just like, you know, waiting. Like, I'll sign autographs later. They're all starstruck. Just joking. So cover crops will help you get water into your soil, and they do not compete against your cash crop. That, for the most part, is true. It is not true if you pick the wrong species and do not manage them. So how can you fail at that? Easy. If you throw, everybody and their brother has to throw in winter rye, which I don't agree with, because if you're going to do a cover crop mix, you should at least be doing 3, 5, better yet 7 or 8 species mixes. You should not just be doing one, but one is better than none. And if you reduce some primary tillage and have just one cover crop, at least you're doing something. And so to easily fail at that would be to throw winter rye out there, not monitor soil moisture, not look at your forecast, and not terminate it on time. For me here on our soils, the minute I could drive across that field with a roller crimper and not cause much damage to that field, I would be crimping that rye. For the most part for here, by the time the rye is crimpable, it's going to be end of May anyhow, and so it's a non-issue. So for here, it'd be end of May, early June, and for my area, I do not care. I have zero care about warming and drying the soil. I will crimp that rye because we're going to spend all of the last part of June, all of July, all of August sitting around praying for rain. So there's no reason to have any exposed soil anywhere that's causing heat and evaporation. Get that mat on the ground and let it do its job. Now, if I was in western Minnesota, different soil textures, I would have more of a variable rate. I would be monitoring my seeding rates on the winter rye, but I would be terminating it standing up as late as possible. Let it pull as much moisture as it can to help me get out to the field that little bit sooner, and terminate it standing up so the sun can hit the ground and can kind of help get that soil warmed up and dried up a little bit. And so, yeah, there's a lot. I've seen, in the last couple of years, I've seen hundreds of stories of guys saying, well, cover crops don't work here because I threw winter rye out there, I didn't terminate it, or I terminated at this point, and it killed my cash crop. It really stunted that cash crop hard. And so to them, that's why you cannot do cover crops in their area. And my rebuttal to that, or my statement to that kind of logic, is I have a treadmill in the basement, and I can prove definitively that treadmills do not help lose weight. Because I had a treadmill, I walked on it one time, and I didn't lose any weight. So clearly, it is a lie that treadmills can help you lose weight. And so you have to manage it. Well, then how on the earth can cover crops help get more water into our soil, and how do they not use more water or compete against our cash crops for water? One, we have to understand from a scientific point of view, when you listen to these science people, is our definition of wet and dry is drastically different than what functioning soil is for wet and dry. What we think is pretty dang dry, there's still a lot of moisture there for plants and life. And so, one, we have a misconception there. And two, when we have cover crops growing, the cover crops are pumping carbon into the soil. They're promoting life. They have root channels. The life that they're promoting, big and small life, is going to help alleviate compaction, allow pore space for water to come in. They're going to make tunnels and burrows for water to go in. The plant's root coming into the soil is going to be a spot for water to come in. Its residue on top is going to hold water back, allow it time to soak into the soil. And they also say that the healthier our plants are as we get our nutrient management under control, the plants need a lot less water to do the same job as in the dead dirt farming. And so it makes each drop of water go that much further. And also the cover crops are going to cover the ground and keep the ground from getting scorched and hot. And it's, I mean, science can easily show that you can use a lot of water in July and August in a corn crop. A lot of water can go to respiration of the corn plant. The corn plant is using a lot of water just to try and stay cool. And we can have a tremendous amount of evaporation. And so with the cover crop, that soil is hopefully a little better covered. At the same time, hopefully we have some bug life that's eating that cover crop residue. But then we've brought in the next crop, so it's green and growing again. But it's keeping that soil covered, so we're losing a lot less water to evaporation. We're losing tremendously less water to respiration. And we also help get more water into the ground to begin with. And so that is how cover crops can really help us not compete with our cash crop for water. The other side of that is species selection and timing. So I'm not going to go into cornfield like alfalfa. We saw that during the drought the other year. That alfalfa beat the crap out of that corn. You can't compete with established alfalfa coming in with an annual. It's not going to happen. But we can take that annual, we can give it a head start. So if the corn's here, we can come in with our cover crop. And by the time that cover crop gets going, the corn's here. So how deep, its roots are already 6-8 inches down. By the time the cover crop becomes something, our corn crop already has roots a foot or so down. And the cover crop is not going to compete with that. That root at a foot down is just punching on down, hopefully, and collecting more water. Here, it would be hard for that to get much through that foot. It gets down to that 9-10 inches. There's a natural compaction layer in our soil at that 9 to 10 inch mark, and it's only a couple inches thick. And if them roots can get through that, then underneath that, it's soft for the rest of the way down. And so the roots just have to get through that. And then they've got clay, yellow clay down there that holds a lot of water, a lot of moisture, and they're going to do just well. Where that cover crop, by fall time, that cover crop's hardly going to be down that 10 inches. And so, yeah. So, very simple, very effective. We just got to be a little bit careful on species timing and termination and management. But other than that, guys, thank you very much.